The Bloemfontein High Court will today hear confirmation of the unlimited restraint against Iqbal Sharma and a Gupta-owned company. Now, Gupta associate Iqbal Sharma was granted 500,000 rand bail by the Bloemfontein High Court in July. Now, he is accused of unduly receiving nearly 25 million rand meant to be used to conduct a feasibility study for the Frede Dairy Farm project, which ultimately never benefited black farmers who were the intended beneficiaries here. For more on this story, I'm joined now by our senior politics reporter, Ziyanda Ngcobo, to flesh out some of the latest around this story. Ziyanda, very good morning to you. So, explain to us where the case is right now. We know that Mr. Sharma is out on 500,000 rand bail. Where does the case go to from here?
So what's happening in the Bloemfontein High Court is essentially the NPA. You'll recall that just before Iqbal Sharma was released on bail, or I should say just after he was arrested, he had his assets seized by the asset forfeiture unit. That includes his home, which featured on top billing worth 12 million rand. And also, part of the reason why Iqbal Sharma was denied bail by the lower court, the magistrate's court, by Magistrate Estelle Delanga, was because the state discovered that he had not declared 246 million rand, which is currently sitting in Dubai. And they saw that as a motivation not to release Iqbal Sharma on bail because most of his assets, according to, are not in South Africa, and that his associates, being the Gupta brothers, are also not in South Africa. Salim Issa, who is seen, if you look at the papers, as the key dispenser and the middleman, is also not in South Africa, and there's obviously a red alert to bring them back into the country. So while that issue, obviously, he took it to a higher court and was released on bail, what's happening in the Bloemfontein Magistrates Court is that the NPA is saying, look, this guy has got no reason to stay in the country. Do not release his assets, because if you do, you'll be giving him some kind of means to actually leave. And so they want an unrestrained order, meaning that they want to be able to freeze as much as possible to ensure that Iqbal Sharma does not leave.
So that tells us that now that he's out on bail, law enforcement, at least the NPA, they are very uncomfortable that he could escape at any time. What assurances are there, or what mechanisms are there then to make sure that he remains in South Africa?
I mean, you know, the fact that the High Court overturned the decision of the Magistrates Court, which was quite detailed as to why they believe Iqbal Sharma should be in the country. I've already mentioned that his associates are out of the country. He has a residency, you know, in Dubai. He's traveled extensively, so they believe that he has contacts everywhere. And so the current bail conditions essentially are no different to the ones that are granted to anyone else, as in don't leave Gauteng without anyone's permission, without reporting, of course, to the investigating officer, I should say. You know, you should report to the nearest police station every week. But you know, as you passports, handing in your passport, the usual stuff, yes. Really. But I would love to believe that there's a huge discomfort coming from the NPA, given the fact that they even made that particular point during the bail application to say that the Guptas are gone. They are making all kinds of efforts to bring them back into the country. Do not allow Iqbal Sharma to actually get bail, because then we don't know what could happen. And in fact, the example that was used was of Pastor Bushiri, who was granted bail and has since fled. He's never come back. We've never seen that. So, you know, whilst the argument is that bail is not meant to be a punitive measure, it's just sort of meant to give assurance to the state that the person will still be there. They've described Iqbal Sharma as a person of means, someone who would be able to access maybe fake documents. This is exactly what the state said, that this is not something new, that he's likely to access fake documents. So while that's not the process that's happening today, it's intrinsically linked to, of course, the confirmatory order of an unrestrained ability to freeze his assets, because in essence, it seems the strategy is to, you know, run the taps dry financially in order to ensure that he does not leave the country.
Yeah. Ziyanda, on a side issue, the former president, Kgalema Motlanthe, is going to be briefing at 11 today,
Yeah.
and he is briefing about his role that he has been given recently by the ANC, and it's around the preparations for the local government elections. What's he briefing about exactly?
So he's going to actually unveil the candidate list of the ANC, which is a very interesting thing given the context of the local government elections, given the context of what's currently happening within the African National Congress. And when I say that, the allegations of corruption, you've been talking about Dr. Zweli Mkhize, the impending cabinet reshuffle. So while these processes may seem to be far removed, the whole point is about the current aesthetic of the governing party and who exactly is going to be on that list. What kind of caliber of candidate are we going to be seeing the ANC present before South Africans?
Yeah.
Will they be above reproach, which is what South Africans are expecting? We know that the ANC, whether you talk about the State Capture Commission of Inquiry, whether we talk about how the recent unrest is seen to be as a result of the escalating internal factional battles within the ANC,
Yeah.
there is, I think, a legitimacy and a moral sort of
It's
problem that the governing party faces right now.
It's an obligation on the ANC, and I'm sorry to put words in your mouth, Ziyanda. It's an obligation on the part of the ANC. If you read opinion pieces, since the unrest, since Zweli Mkhize being placed on special leave, and the pressure has never been put to bear in the manner in which it is about a president needing to reorganize his cabinet. So the challenge for them is that there aren't any rich pickings. People in the ANC, their reputations are soiled. Many of them. We're not going to paint everyone with the same brush, but that is the understanding that, unfortunately, the ANC constantly and its candidates are mired in corruption allegations. So that's perhaps where Kgalema Motlanthe is going to tell us about where is he going to find these candidates who are at least slightly clean.
Slightly clean, but I mean, you know, we know the president's going to be at the State Capture Commission of Inquiry, albeit as state president, but we know what he said when he was there as ANC president. We know that even as we all wait for this cabinet reshuffle that we don't know is going to happen when, as you've said, there aren't many rich pickings. We've heard issues of generational mix, so I'm sure that's something that Motlanthe will have to touch on getting young people on the list for the local government elections. What kind of vetting process did they undergo to ensure that, one, the people that they select as candidates represent the values of the organization, which we know has been part of the issues that the governing party has faced, that the people who sit in very powerful positions, there's always this argument that they don't even understand the core values of, you know, the organization itself.
Actually, how we're going to end this conversation is on a very light note, although it is serious. It's a serious matter. Once I attended a speech by the then Secretary General of the ANC, Gwede Mantashe, who was addressing a gathering of ANC comrades, and he asked the question about some ANC policy on a particular matter, and his conclusion was that, well, comrades, you know, just listening to the responses here, you can tell that it's 12 o'clock midnight.
I remember that very well.
So let's leave it. Thank you very much. Ziyanda Ngcobo, our senior politics reporter, giving us a sense about what is going to be coming out on a very serious case faced by Gupta associate Iqbal Sharma, but also, importantly, that media briefing at 11 o'clock by the former president, Kgalema Motlanthe. You don't want to miss that.